Now, Eminem says those words. Make sure I click my button here. There we go. Eminem says those words at the beginning of the song Lose Yourself. But do you think when he did it, he realized that this was going to inspire millions of people? See, this became more than just a theme song for that movie 8 Mile. It became an anthem for every one of us who knew that there was a big opportunity coming and had to build up the courage to take advantage of it. Fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, every time we introduce ourselves to someone new, that's our one shot, our one opportunity to leave a memorable impact in someone's life. Now, whether you're in a one-on-one situation or a group, whether it's a formal speech or a casual conversation, maybe it's to a potential client or the future love of your life, you have one shot. Now, that might feel just a little heavy, so let's pause for a second, take a breath. Okay. Now, your introduction is extremely important, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and truthfully, it won't be. That's okay. But the beauty of it is that you get to decide exactly what it is. So today, I want to share some tips with you around creating a memorable introduction. Now, this can be used for your leader pitch. It can be used for your speaking introduction, like you just heard Stephanie read from me. Or in this case, we're going to use it to inspire you to write a killer icebreaker speech. And I want to challenge you. There's two ways to go about this. One, you can write a safe, simple, step-by-step icebreaker speech. You're going to meet the requirements and it's fine. Or I want to challenge you to write a speech that lasts and makes a lasting impression. One that is actually an inspirational letter to yourself. So think of this. You're writing a speech, and I want you to be in the mindset of the absolute most confident version that you've ever experienced. The time when you were on top of your game, everything in life is going right on track, and you are fired up. And I want you to give yourself permission to be in that mindset to do some bragging as you put these pieces together. Now, who you're writing this letter to is a version of you that maybe is a little less confident. One that's, we have those doubts sometimes, and we want to give ourselves the opportunity to reference this in the future, to be able to pick yourself back up when you need maybe that little push, because this is your chance to shine, whether it's an introduction in an elevator speech or an icebreaker. This is your chance to build authority and design the experience that the person you're speaking to has in regards to who you are and what you can do. Does that make sense? All right. So first of all, who is willing to take on the challenge to go a little outside the box, push themselves, and write an icebreaker that leaves that lasting impression? All right, good. Sorry if I wasn't going to see any hands there. So I want to share with you a few key pieces. Now, the first thing I want you to think about is your name. Your name may be simple, but it's extremely important, not just because you want them to say it back to you and it feels good to hear it, but the more that you give somebody the ability to anchor to your stories or your speech, the more they're going to remember you. And so when you first present your name, do it like this. My name is Jeremy DeMerchant. Now that pause in the middle, that's what I want to draw your attention to. It might seem really, really awkward at first. That's okay. When you've got a name like mine, if you see it spelled out, it's a lot easier to consume. But when you're just listening, if I'd said, my name's Jeremy DeMerchant, you're going to go, whoa, what was it? And every person that's new to your world is going to be taking time to process as much information as they can about you. And if you leave that one little pause in the middle of your name, it gives them the opportunity to process your first name and then your last name. And that's one more thing that they can anchor to. Now, as far as content goes, one of the biggest challenges when you're first writing your icebreaker is going, okay, what am I going to write about? Am I going to tell a story about my life? Well, that could go for 3 hours if you told every bit of your life story. But you also just don't want to come in and say a couple of things and be out of there, right? I think the goal is for your icebreaker speech to be 4 to 6 minutes, Steph. Yeah. So I want to give you the resources you need to help build an icebreaker that's going to set you up for success. Now, give yourself permission to brag. When you're writing this, it's only you are going to see it until it's the final copy. So take everything that you can think of that you're most proud of in life. Make a list of at least 5 things. I know you're going to have more than 5. Feel free to write down more than 5. You don't have to do this right now, but you absolutely can. But think of those things that it could be a professional or an academic achievement, could be a personal or financial achievement. For example, when I'm in a situation where I want to talk about what I've done professionally to potentially get a client, I say things like, I've been able to close sales for clients up to $750,000. That's a financial thing that can link people to a level of credibility. So come up with anything you can think of that is a professional or an academic or a financial achievement or even a personal one. Maybe you're meeting someone for the first time in a social situation. They're probably less concerned about how much I've helped somebody making money wise, and more interested in, oh, I've got a 2-year-old baby boy who I love. So write those things down, at least 5. You're not going to use them all, but at least it gives you something to pull from. Next, I want you to make a list of 5 interesting things about you. So things that you've done, places you've gone, if you've traveled all over the world, that counts. If you've got a weird tattoo in a place that nobody knows, if you want to share it, that counts. Get creative. And I use the number 5 because I didn't want you to have a list of 500 things, but you don't have to stop at 5. Make as big of a list as you can, because that's going to give you what you need to pull from. Next, I want you to make a list of 5 things that you want to achieve in the future. There's many situations where telling somebody where you'd like to be can tell them a lot about you. So if I say, for example, at some point I would like to speak on a stage in Dubai. At an event once that actually got me an invite to speak at an event on a stage in Dubai. Now, unfortunately, the event ended up not happening, so it didn't actually happen, but I got the invite, I got the connections. And if I hadn't have said that out loud in a room, I never would have even had the opportunity. So anything you'd like to achieve in the future. For me, if you met me early on, I would have said, you know what? I'm really looking forward to being a dad. And that'll tell you a lot about me. So it can be anything. But make sure you list as many as you can. You're not going to use them all, but we'll pull them in, and it gives you a good source to work from. And then finally, if you feel like there's gaps in what you've written so far, think about 5 things that professionally build up your authority. So you heard some of the ones that were in my speaker bio, and some of this you'll be able to use in your speaker bio as well. So international best-selling author, award-winning speaker. If you don't have that, that's okay. Those are just really nice, shiny things that I can stick in my bio. It looks good. But what have you done? I'm sure there's things that you've done, whether it's other accomplishments that maybe you haven't already listed, things that if you met your ideal client face-to-face right now, you would want them to know about you, even if you only had 30 seconds. What's one little thing you could slip in there? Like in my previous speaker bio, it said on the sales consulting side that I helped clients from Santa Monica to Singapore to double their sales in as little as a week. Sounds good, it's buzzy, but it also says a lot on the credibility side. So that's what we want to build. So give me a thumbs up if you got that so far. Yeah, you're with me? Good. Awesome. Now, the reason why all these things are so important is because people want to know what makes you tick. Sorry, I've got a dog barking in the background if you can hear it. Once you have all these things, I want you to weave them all together And this is going to be through a strong opening, and then you're going to have the body, which we're going to talk about actually in the next session more, and then a closing. But to keep it simple, because we don't want to overcomplicate this, I don't want to feel like it's a big lift. Just think about all those things you've got written down, because at this point you should have between 15 and 20 things listed. What are the things that most excite you and that can apply to most situations? And how can you weave them together in some form of a story? A truthful story. Doesn't have to be a full story, but a truthful story. So, for example, I often talk about how Toastmasters has changed my life. But back in 2018, I landed in Ottawa. I say landed, I mean, I drove, but I ended up in Ottawa. And by May, I had been there for 2 months, and I had been hiding in my home office in an apartment that I was renting, not having a clue who anyone was in the city. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I need to talk to people. And I looked up Toastmasters online, and I found Ottawa Collab Toastmasters. I also happened to be looking for office space, and when I walked in, staff was there. So in both scenarios, I found what I needed. And it's created great friendships, great relationships, great business partnerships. So much opportunity here. And so I can combine things like the success I've had in Toastmasters with my entrepreneurship to combine into that experience. And that's my story of how I met Steph. And so think about how you can take those pieces and kind of weave a thread through the story. And you don't need to make sure it's complete from end to end. You just want, especially in your icebreaker, you just want to leave a lasting impression, one that represents how you want to be represented to the audience, and one that's going to make them go, you know what, I remember Steph's name. Or maybe I don't remember her name because maybe she said it too fast, but I remember she said something about being the crazy girl, or she was the one in red, right? It could be anything. I'm specifically standing up. You can't really tell because I'm so close, but I'm specifically standing up because in a conversation a couple days ago, someone said, no, most people don't stand up anymore on camera. And I'm like, cool, let's do it. Make it different. When we were in the middle of COVID and everybody suddenly started showing up on camera in t-shirts, I started wearing a tie. Super easy way to stand out. And so if you can combine those notes that you've taken on yourself, those authority building things, the achievements that you want to do, the achievements that you've already done, the things you're most proud of, into a story that is a little glimpse into who you are, then you can use that, again, not only for your icebreaker speech, but it can be a reference point for the next time you're feeling down, the next time you're not as confident as you need to be for that opportunity. And you can use everything you put together from this icebreaker in multiple situations, professionally, personally. I mean, my adventures in Ottawa led me to a relationship that lasted an entire year. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for meeting Steph at an event, and she told me to come to a networking event. So you don't know where these connections can come from. Tell these stories in a succinct way. And last, I'm just going to say, don't overthink it. Keep it simple. I know it sounds like I've made it sound like it's a big, important thing, and it is, but it'll evolve. Your intro, your icebreaker, the stories that you tell professionally about yourself and even personally, they will start to evolve as different things come into your world, as you've checked off more of those professional goals. So in short, make those lists and just try to create something interesting about yourself that's memorable. Decide what that little piece is that you want to be anchored to your personality, to your character, to who you are. And I'm going to challenge you to do it. So I'm going to ask yourself if you had one shot, one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in that one moment of your introduction, will you capture it or let it slip? Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.